All right, we are back at halftime, and I guess this is how tough times are right now. My son Brian Murphy, DeMatha class of 2003. Now, if we go back to when you were a student here, did you ever think that, a few years down the road, you'd be an alumnus and a halftime guest?
I can't say that ever really crossed my mind. I cannot say that was something I really envisioned back there in 2003.
Okay. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind, although I assume my grandson Kellen, your son, is fast asleep right now, we do have the ability to show him the replay, so you better make sure, you understand that he's listening. And I know I had you in class for 2 years, so we don't want to make this, a situation where, you try and even up the score all in one 8-minute interview.
I think I learned a long time ago that you're always going to win those battles, so
That's good. For my students out there, that's a lesson to learn. Okay, well, first of all, what did you think of the first half?
Maybe not the prettiest first half we ever played, but actually I think that was good for the Stags. Hunter, a couple of guys got a little more of a prominent role than they've had in the past. They started to figure things out towards the end. I think this is going to be a good building block for them moving forward. Yeah,
it's not like we have another 7'1" guy we're going to put in there. So the fact that he's not out there changes things. We have better ball movement, good defense on the perimeter. I mentioned to Sean, I think one thing we got to box out their big guy. Without Hunter there, we got to rebound up by committee and put a body on him. So let's go back in time. You went to grade school where?
Went to Holy Redeemer in College Park, so just a couple miles north on Route 1 from here.
Okay, and why'd you come to DeMatha?
Well,
I'll answer that because you had to. Okay, but you came in and you played, actually, Justin Gielan, who plays here. His grandfather, Mike Gielan, coached you at St. Mark's, even though you're Holy Redeemer, you played CYO at St. Mark's. So a lot of your teammates came here, right? Joe Hunter, I saw, was watching today. All right. So how was the adjustment coming here?
Well, it was tough. I think high school for any teenager can be a difficult time at different parts, but certainly coming to DeMatha where expectations across the board are really high, and then your father's in the building, a little bit more of another variable in the equation, and so there was a tough adjustment for a couple of years.
Well, I think one thing any high school student wants to be at times is anonymous. You didn't have that luxury. Teachers you didn't even knew your name.
I think if I sneezed first period, if I saw you in the hallway third period, you'd say, God bless you.
Okay. So you come in, and you played basketball your freshman year. Who was your coach?
Mike Jones. I like to say that I was on his first ever team as a head coach. So.
Yeah, Mike had been an assistant with some of the other teams. That was the first time. He was actually a varsity assistant, and he was the head coach of the freshman team. Now, who were some of the other guys that came in that freshman class?
Well, Steve Danley, I know he was your halftime guest a couple of weeks ago. I think he played a little bit of varsity.
By the way, I wanted you first, but just scheduling-wise, it worked out better for Dr. Danley to come on first.
I can't believe I didn't beat out the Marshall Scholar. But, yeah, he played a little bit of varsity in JV. Certainly Jermaine Green, Ryan Mitch, who was a 3-year starter on the football team. Joe Hunter, who ended up having one of the better senior years that I can recall.
Right.
But, yeah, we had a good little mix there. Different guys did different things. And then Josh Wilson was there. He played in the NFL. So.
Did okay. Now, I know, school wasn't the highest priority when you were here, right? But I think one of the things that did happen is you had a special relationship with some of the teachers. Who were those teachers maybe that impacted you and helped you get through those 4 years?
Absolutely. I was really fortunate early on. And Pat Guerin really kind of took me under her wing. And even when maybe I didn't deserve it, she just really went out of her way to help me. I guess the easiest way to say it is she helped me learn how to learn. And that's something that really benefited me a lot, not just through DeMatha, but then later on as I pursued my degree. And people like her, Gwen Marbury, the people that they helped me a lot at DeMatha, but then even more so later on in life.
Well, I mean, one of my favorite things is you've kept in touch with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, over the years. And you think about someone like Pat Guerin, she may have affected and helped more people than any other teacher at DeMatha because she would get them at the crossroads where they weren't sure what they were going to do. And the one thing Pat would always say is, you can do this. It might be hard, but you can do this. You can be successful. You just may have to work a little bit, break a little sweat.
And having her, I took a lot of the elements that she taught me in high school, and they actually helped me a lot more in college. I always think of her kind of teaching me how to study, and Buck Offit, I was fortunate to have him, and he taught me how to write a paper. If you know how to study, you know how to write a paper, higher education gets pretty easy pretty quick.
I remember Buck came to me because I think it was your sophomore year.
Yep.
You were taking composition. He came down and said, he can really write. We got to get organized. We got to polish things up a little bit, but he has some talent as a writer. And it's just great to hear something positive about your child. And certainly with Buck, you knew you had the very best.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you go through DeMatha. We get you through with the help of like Anna DeLuigi. I know she stepped up to the plate.
Absolutely.
She did some great things. I think maybe her garden was weeded extra special that year by someone unknown. All right. So you leave here and you go outside of Pittsburgh. Right, you go to school?
Go to school up at Robert Morris. Went there for a year and actually did really well there up at school. It was kind of my first time to not be Mr. Murphy's son. Grew up a lot. Really had a great experience up there. And then kind of actually over that first summer, I remember playing golf with you and saying, Dad, I think I'm ready to come home and I think I want to go to the University of Maryland.
Well, aside from that, when you were in high school, you got a job at Maryland. You got my dream job when you were like 15, first in the cart barn and then gradually working up to the pro shop and then that. So you had kind of two different lives. You wanted to make that decision. And I remember it was kind of neat for me as I said, well, Brian, if you want to do that, make it happen. So you had to make the phone call. So what was that process like?
It was exciting. It was really a position where I was not only getting to make my own decisions, but I was prepared enough to make informed decisions. And I felt equipped to do that. And it got tough at times. I was working full time at the golf course and being a student.
Right.
But I think that it continued to help me down the road. A lot of those things.
But you got it done. You got the degree. And then about 5 years ago, your life changed again. What happened there?
I got married to a wonderful woman who is also in education. She's a principal in Montgomery County School System. So
right.
Learned well from educators.
And of course, your wedding. What went on there?
Well, it was said by Father Damien.
Right.
And then I had three best men: Steve Danley, who you mentioned earlier, and then also Mike Zahn and Matt Wenzel. And they're all DeMatha grads, all class of 2003.
Now, Mike was a basketball manager. Wenzel was a baseball guy. I'm not sure why we let him in. But again, I mean, one of the neat things now I see all the time Tom Ponton gets him is the pictures at the DeMatha weddings. All those guys. And all those guys, you were just up at Matt's house the other day for a birthday party for their child. What is that like, that bond between you guys?
Well, it's great. I mean, we went up there on Sunday and we spent 20 minutes just talking about what the basketball team was doing this year, what we thought about the football team this past year. And,
how good the broadcasts were?
That didn't come up. I'll bring that up next time.
Well, I'm sure they're all watching.
I'll probably get text messages critiquing my performance then.
And then almost 2 years ago, we put Father Damien to work again. Yep. What happened there?
He baptized my son, Kellen. We did that at the monastery, not the monastery, the
chapel upstairs.
The chapel upstairs. So, I'm working my wife to make sure that he's going to be DeMatha class of 2000, and I guess that'd be 33. Is that what we're looking
Well,
at?
the good news is I'll probably still be teaching here.
Well, so he's got to ride.
There you go. All right, we're getting ready for the second half. Brian, this is great. Thanks for coming on. All right, I'll read the reviews from our lady friends later on. All right, let's go Stags.